The president says, quote, "We are hitting ISIS harder than ever." But only 3 out of 10 Americans think his strategy is working.
As Americans grow more concerned about another terrorist attack here at home, critics say the president's new PR push is all bark and no bite. Here's White House correspondent Jennifer Wishon.
As Americans prepare to celebrate Christmas, President Obama is launching a campaign to prove his strategy against the Islamic State is working.
Since this spring, we've removed Abu Sayyaf, one of their top leaders.
In a rare statement from the Pentagon, the president ticked off the names of ISIS leaders the coalition has killed.
The point is, ISIL leaders cannot hide, and our next message to them is simple: you are next.
Airstrikes against ISIS targets are raining down more frequently, the president says.
Because as we squeeze its heart, we'll make it harder for ISIL to pump its terror and propaganda to the rest of the world.
But critics say for now, the president's PR push is all for show. House Majority Leader Kevin McCarthy says the American people are smart enough to know when something is working or not, and it's obvious that the president's current strategy isn't working.
It seems that ISIS is actually spreading its tentacles further throughout the world, and if we're doing such a great job in Iraq and Syria, that wouldn't be happening.
CBN News terrorism analyst Eric Stakelbeck says just look at a map. In Iraq, ISIS controls Mosul, Ramadi, and Fallujah. It's a safe haven like the kind al-Qaeda enjoyed in Afghanistan before 9/11.
We have to remember that terrorism is only a tactic. It is driven by an ideology, jihadist, radical Islamic ideology. Until President Obama and his administration acknowledge that ideology exists, we will not be able to defeat it.
As the number of Americans concerned about the risk of another terror attack in the U.S. grows, President Obama will today work to reframe the conversation about immigrants and tolerance. He's making that case during a ceremony to swear in new American citizens from Iraq and 25 other nations. Top White House officials are also meeting with American Muslim and Sikh leaders about battling discrimination. With the proper leadership, Stakelbeck says America could end the fight pretty quickly.
If we roundly defeated Saddam Hussein and a standing army of hundreds of thousands during the 1990s and in 2003, we could make very short work of ISIS without a doubt, but the political will is not there right now.
Jennifer Wishon, CBN News, Washington.
And then we learned recently, ladies and gentlemen, that the NSA records of the social media accounts of these terrorists were withheld from law enforcement, and the ones that were involved in San Bernardino in that tragic shooting there, we could have identified them, but the word came out from the administration, you know, that would be an infringement on their Muslim sensibilities or whatever it is, but we didn't let those Facebook accounts go public, and we paid the price. Well, in the Republican side of things, Donald Trump is soaring in the polls ahead of tonight's debate thanks to his tough talk on Islam and refugees. Wendy Griffith has more on that story from the CBN newsroom.
Thanks, Pat. Donald Trump carries a huge lead in tonight's debate in Las Vegas. A new Washington political ABC News poll put him at 38% among Republican and GOP-leaning voters. Ted Cruz is a distant second with 15%. Cruz and the others need to take Trump down, and that means the gloves will certainly be off tonight. CBN's David Brody has more from Las Vegas.
Some may call it a December miracle, but the Donald Trump machine is on top of the polls and playing to sold-out shows all across the country, including right here in Las Vegas on Monday night.
And this country needs to get away from political correctness. It's killing it.
His fans are loving every minute of this.
I respond really well to honesty and to somebody that's practical about solving problems.
I don't think he has anybody in his back pocket.
Nowadays, you have to be tough because, you know, you can't be softy.
But the race isn't Trump's alone. A new Iowa poll shows Ted Cruz rising steadily. And in our past interviews, the Texas senator clearly believes who will decide the winner.
There are 90 million evangelical Christians in the United States. It's about 30% of our population. In the last election, 54 million evangelical Christians stayed home. If Christians will simply show up and vote our values, we'll turn this country around.
Indeed, Cruz leads among evangelical voters, taking advantage of Ben Carson's drop-off since the last debate. Marco Rubio is holding on to third with his sights set on Cruz. In an interview with CBN News, the Florida senator hinted at Cruz's opposition to government surveillance that Rubio argues will prevent future terrorist attacks.
Numerous members of my party for the last few years have worked to undermine our intelligence programs. And they did so under the guise of civil liberties. But the truth is that there were no civil liberties being violated.
As for the overall tone of tonight's CNN debate, expect a bunch of bickering and finger-pointing. According to the Media Research Center, the last time CNN asked the questions, 3/4 were aimed at getting Republican candidates to criticize each other. And now that the stakes are higher, we can expect the candidates to throw a number of punches on their own. David Brody, CBN News, in Las Vegas, Nevada.
Thanks, David. German police have arrested a prominent Islamic extremist preacher, accusing him of supporting a foreign terrorist group. It's the latest sign that Germany is grappling with the growing threat from radical Islam. Now, German Chancellor Angela Merkel says Germany is reaching its limit for accepting Mideast refugees. Germany has taken in about 1 million people fleeing the brutality of ISIS. Time magazine just named Merkel Person of the Year for her open-door policy. But now the Washington Post reports Merkel says multiculturalism is a sham that has utterly failed. She says, quote, multiculturalism leads to parallel societies. But she argues refugees need to assimilate into German culture, respect the country's laws, and contribute to their communities. Well, in Northern Ireland, an evangelical preacher is on trial for calling Islam satanic in a sermon. 78-year-old James McConnell could serve 6 months in jail for violating the Communications Act because his sermon was broadcast over the internet. The prosecutor says the case is not about freedom of religion or expression and calls the pastor's words grossly offensive. People from all backgrounds are defending McConnell's right to free speech and religion. Even a prominent Muslim imam says he supports McConnell and would go to jail with him if McConnell is convicted. Well, the commercialism of Christmas has come to Bethlehem, complete with a Santa Claus float, a giant Santa caricature marching down the street. There he is, and a giant polar bear. The first ever Bethlehem Christmas parade mixed ancient and modern traditions in the birthplace of Jesus Christ.
I believe that our kids, they deserve this happiness, this joy. And Merry Christmas to you all from Bethlehem, the city of peace.
Some good news, though. Joseph and Mary did make an appearance for the parade, and some of the 7 Christmas floats also showed the shepherds and the 3 wise men. Don't see baby Jesus, though, Pat.
I hate to say that turns my stomach. I was in Bethlehem a few years ago with a group, and it was Christmas Eve, and I was in a field overlooking Bethlehem, and there were shepherds out there because this was a place where they kept sheep. And we had candles, and we sang a song, "O Little Town of Bethlehem, How Still We See Thee Lie." And it was a beautiful moment where we saw the real spirit of what happened. But this commercialism makes me sick at my stomach. It used to be from Thanksgiving. Now it's weeks before Thanksgiving, and the airways are filled with all kinds of commercialism, and you just scream, isn't there some way I can get away from this stuff? It is just outrageous. And
well, the simplicity of the real story is the miracle of it.
Well, you know, when I was in Israel that time, we didn't have any presents to give. We didn't have any trees to decorate. We didn't have any holly, mistletoe, or any of that stuff that goes along with it. And we were there in Jerusalem, and then we went up to the Sea of Galilee and the Jordan River coming out of it. And I remember Ben Kinchlow and I baptized 59 people on Christmas Day, and it was
wonderful.
It was a great Christmas, but this stuff is horrible. Everywhere you go, it's so commercial. I'm just sick of it.
And I'm sure confusing to children who they're trying to bless, but confusing to children.